welcome to the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast, where all things football are injected right to your veins, with your hosts, Matt Donnelly, Calvin Shoemake, and Jeff Mueller.
What is up, and welcome to the penultimate episode of the Team Spotlight series here on the Dynasty Vipers. I am super excited to be joined by an awesome cast where we're going to talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. And as I say every show, it's really important that we do this team by team and learn these teams, talk about these teams, make sure that we understand the offensive systems because, yes, rookies are super important. Of course, we need to understand the rookies, but there's coaching changes, there's free agency moves, there's trades, there's all these things that are going to also impact all of these fantasy assets now and the future, the Dynasty Vipers. So we're interested in that dynasty value. We need to understand these teams really well. To do that, we bring in smart football people who are fans of the team. So nobody knows your team the way that you do. You love your team, you know your team, you pay attention to them. These guys know the Chargers, they pay attention to them. So we'll just go around the room. I want to introduce them to you, let them introduce themselves, tell them, make sure you follow them when they tell you where you can find them. So I'll start with Pod. He's right over here to my left. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us what you're working on this offseason and where we can find you.
Hi, my name's Pod. I'm from Southern California. Lived in Southern California my whole life. I'm on Twitter most of the time. Lamont87. That's my nickname. I go by Lamont. It's LAM0NT87. Honestly, I'm very new to everything right now. I just got invited to Dynasty Vipers to be a part of the team a few weeks ago, so I'm going to focus a lot on that. But besides that, I'm just going to, just try to contribute to whatever to Dynasty Vipers, and then if anything else comes along my way, I'll try to join that. But it's just I don't really have much in the off season to do and stuff. But besides, try to come up with information for you guys.
You've come up with a lot of really good information for this, and you definitely really impressed with your homework and how smart you are with it. Excited to have you as a part of the Dynasty Vipers. And so we're also joined by Mr. John Hesterman. How are you doing today, sir? And where can we find you? And what are you working on?
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Really thrilled to be here. You can find me on Twitter. That's where I do most of my stuff at John_Hesterman. I'm a writer for DynastyLeagueFootball.com, and there is no off season. That's our tagline. So I'm constantly working. We've got a Dynasty draft guide, one of the first of its kind, coming out very, very soon that I definitely wanted to hype up, talk about, because it was an ambitious project. Me and several other writers collaborated on. Really excited for that to drop. Should be coming soon.
Very cool. Thanks so much for joining us. Excited to hear your thoughts on the Chargers. And Lee, from all the way across the pond, joining us. Excited to have you.
Absolutely.
What time is it there? And are you in trouble with your family for being up so late?
No, I've got to keep it down a little bit because it's just coming. Well, it's just past 1 a.m. now over here in the UK. So yeah, like you say, repping the Bolts from over the other side of the pond and here in the UK. I'm based in the north of England in a place called Leeds. I don't know whether you guys ever heard of it or anything like that, or whether it's just kind of pointing on the map and just kind of picking where it pinned the tail in the donkey kind of thing. But yeah, like the other guys have said, you can find me over on the Twitterverse as well, at Wakefield90. And yeah, I'm mainly focusing on college football at the moment with my writing. So work for a website over here in the UK called The Full 10 Yards. And much like John, we've just released our college football scouting guide, which has just dropped now. So if you want to go over to full10yards.com, and if you want to order that, it's available in digital. So, we're posting out to the UK, but available overseas in a digital copy. So really excited to kind of plug that, and also to join you guys as well and talk some Chargers football, which is always a pleasure for you guys.
So you're joining us from Friday, joining us from the future. Really appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, happy Friday.
Yeah, so I'm really curious. One of my favorite things about this is finding out how everybody became a fan of this team. So you are not in Los Angeles or San Diego. So, and clearly from your accent, you didn't grow up there.
No.
How did you become a Charger fan?
So obviously, like you said, not kind of grown up with football, as I imagine you guys have done. So I actually joined football quite late. I'm 30 now, so I actually been watching football for about 15 years. So I got into it kind of late high school, because I was just bored one day on the weekends on a Sunday evening, and I was just flicking through the sports channels, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to give this a go. And it took me about a season to kind of get into it, kind of know the rules and things like that. But since then, just been hooked ever since, and kind of gravitated towards the Chargers because one of my favorite players, or probably my favorite player, very first favorite player, was LaDainian Tomlinson. And just kind of watching him, obviously he's an electric playmaker, scored a lot of touchdowns, stuff like that. And obviously it's the basic things as you kind of first watching, the guys who score loads, right? And the guys who kind of do exciting things before you kind of know the intricacies of the game and defense, things like that. So yeah, LT was the guy why I support the Chargers. And he, first jersey I got and things like that. So yeah, it's all down to LT. I don't know if to thank him or not actually, but yeah, met him a couple of years ago when the Chargers were over in London as well, which was an incredible moment for me as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's still yet to be determined if you're ready to thank LT or not. But he was an awesome player. I mean, that's if you're gonna have a first favorite player, that's a really good one to have. Lots of pretty good running backs there in Los Angeles. John, how did you become a fan of the team? Like, how long have you been rooting for them, or have you followed them through their different cities?
Yeah, I have. So it's a really stupid story why I'm a fan, and it all comes down to Tecmo Super Bowl, honestly. I grew up in Central Arkansas. We don't have a football team there, so I wasn't locked into a regional fandom. My dad wasn't a big football fan, so I wasn't born into a football. So when I got Tecmo Super Bowl, I picked the team that I thought I had the coolest helmet, and that was the Lightning Bolt. And I've been a fan ever since. And a few years later, they went to the Super Bowl in '94 and got curb stomped, and they've been letting me down ever since.
I love that. I think some of my favorite stories are like just this, you're somebody who's not necessarily like from the area, doesn't see, it's just like how you became a fan is so different and unique for so many people. And that is an awesome story. There have been a couple of them that's like my dad rooted for the Eagles, so I rooted for the Browns, or it's just stuff like that is always fun. So, Pod, how about you, man? How did you become affiliated and part of the Chargers fan base?
It's a little bit weird. Well, I would like to begin with my parents are from Bangladesh, so they're not from this country. They moved here in the mid '80s and stuff, so they're not really sports fans. But they put me in a lot of park leagues. So that's how I got into sports. And me, I was like, okay, whatever team I'm on in these park leagues, I'm going to root for them, So as a kid, when I was 7, I was like, I'm on the Packers, so I'm going to root for the Packers. I'm on the Cowboys, so I'm going to root for the Cowboys, or something like that. But then once I finally got into high school, and I was just was able to process and think for myself. I think it was around 2003, 2004. I just fell in love with LaDainian Tomlinson and Marty Schottenheimer and Drew Brees, and it was phenomenal what I was witnessing and stuff. And me and my best friend Brandon Stout, we would always hang out, watch Monday Night Football and whatnot. And then both of us, we were just watching this team in 2003 or 2004, I believe, and we were like, wow, this is amazing. Just look at LT. I mean, we just loved the philosophy and everything. They were so hardcore, It was just they always won. They were on top of their game, and I just fell in love with that afterwards. And I'm from Southern California, so I grew up in Long Beach. I lived in Long Beach until I was 10. Then I moved to Bellflower, which is actually right next to Long Beach, and then I actually live in Lakewood right now, which is right next to both of those cities. So I live 20 minutes away from Carson, So I was able to go to, ever since it came to Los Angeles, I was able to go about to 4 games a year, and then it just felt like a dream come true, and it was pretty amazing. But I've been a Chargers fan for ever since maybe my senior year in high school. So it's been about almost like half my life, 17 years ago. Yeah, 16, 17 years.
I love
people who say that we have fans. We have a fan across the pond right there. So yeah,
there you go.
There's quite a few of us over here as well,
Exactly.
Well, I was curious because I know the Chargers. It seemed like they were going over there a lot. I was wondering if it's you went to a game or something like that. So I know that was they were pretty frequent visitors of going over to Europe, playing in London. But yeah. So
I think
you mentioned LT. Obviously, stardom, superstars. Came into this year sort of thinking Tyrod Taylor is going to hold down the line, and then a brand new superstar appears in Justin Herbert, and just takes the NFL by storm. I mean, he came really close to the yardage record for rookies, things like that. I mean, he was unbelievable to watch, way ahead of where I think most people thought he was going to be. ahead of where Phillip Rivers was, I would say, in his rookie year as well. John, let's talk about 2020 because obviously the record didn't end up where you would want, I'm sure, but a lot of positive things and some things to build on for the Chargers coming out of 2020, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you're right. I don't think anybody really thought Herbert was going to come out like that. I don't think we really expected to see much of Herbert until the later part of the year, maybe get a couple games under his belt and kind of see what we had. But to get thrust into the starting role in the manner that he did with no preparation with the ones and immediately come out, rifle off 300 plus yards, a rushing score, a passing touchdown, and only one interception. I walked away from that game, despite the loss, I walked away from that game going, this is incredible. And so, yeah, I do think that there was a lot of bright spots that shine brighter than the 7-9 record, that we weren't hoping for.
Yeah. Lee, how about you? I know, obviously Eckler was hurt, and didn't get a full season of Eckler, but there's a lot of pieces on this offense that, just seem like they're pretty excited and pretty good to build around. And seemed like there was even a couple of moments last year where it looked like they, after a rough start, had a chance to be one of the better teams. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it's one of these things, isn't it? It's an off-season kind of thing that gets said every single year that the Chargers are only so many pieces away. The building blocks are there, and the guys will probably agree with me to say that it was a massive relief to see Justin come out and ball out because, we've seen other franchises go from bad quarterback to bad quarterback to bad quarterback, for the draft or free agency. And to go from Drew Brees to Phillip Rivers to Justin Herbert almost seamlessly throughout the last, 15 to 20 years. What a position to be in. And you've got to use it. It's about using that rookie contract, isn't it? And putting the pieces around him now. And it does feel like, the Chargers aren't too far away. There was definitely some bright spots throughout the season, Justin being the biggest one. And it was really important, I thought, for him and the team to also experience some wins towards the end of the season, closing out with the 4-game win streak. Hopefully they can carry that momentum into the next season. And, it can be a great start on all the way through, especially with the new coaching staff and everything like that, kind of binding all together.
Right before we went live, Pod, you had some really good, interesting notes on 2020. You want to share those now?
Yeah, I was saying quite a few things. First I want to apologize about how I viewed Justin Herbert at first. That's the first thing that a lot of us have to say because a lot of us, we doubted Justin Herbert. I mean, Jamie Eisenberg, he was on his podcast a few weeks ago saying, like, this was not the Justin Herbert we saw at Oregon. And I was listening to another Chargers podcast. They said the same thing. And I was watching something right before the show. Ryan Wilson, who covers the Chargers, said the same thing as well. So it felt like Oregon was holding him back. And then it came out of nowhere, the second game the second game of the season, Tyrod Taylor, he gets hurt. The lung puncture. That's what it was. And then Justin Herbert comes out of nowhere, and he almost won the game. And he could have, but he threw an interception instead of running for the first down, and that's what backfired because then the Chiefs came back. They had like an 80-yard drive, and it was pretty like. But then you're like, all right, this guy is like the truth. And when you watch him, he's like 6'6" or something. And he could run. He could do all types of stuff. He's throwing touchdowns to Jalen Guyton, like dudes we have never even heard of, Tyron Johnson, Parham, and it's just like, wow, And we had to deal with a lot of stuff. A lot of people, they see that Derwin James got hurt, didn't play the season, but we also lost Drew Tranquill, and he was like a really promising linebacker. He only played like 3 snaps in the beginning of the season, so it was kind of like and then he got hurt. I don't know what the injury was, but then a lot of stuff had to change. We had to make a lot of like adjustments, especially with Austin Eckler. But it was really good to see, and I'm really excited about next season, especially with the whole new coaching and everything else. So I think that we're going to do way better than a 7-9 for sure.
So let's talk about that. And John, I'll toss that over to you. I mean, obviously the Anthony Lynn era ends, full of a lot of like last minute losses. I mean, Lee, you came along and, it's a lot of heartbreaking losses. Like you mentioned, not sure you're ready to thank LT or not, but Anthony Lynn obviously had just a knack for inexplicably losing at the last minute or two of the game. But now that era is over, and we've got a brand new coaching staff, and in my opinion, like one that to be really excited about. You bring Brandon Staley over from the Rams, who was over there working on their defense, number 1 defense over there. He brings Ronaldo Hill with him. And then for the offense, I love the hire of Joe Lombardi. He was right here in New Orleans, QB coach, a lot of time with a cerebral quarterback like Drew Brees. Now he gets to work with another one and, young guy, Justin Herbert. I just think there's a lot of things to like there. Are you as excited about the coaching changes as maybe I am, or it sounds like Pod is?
Yeah, I definitely am, because when you look at that record and you look at how many games the Chargers were close in, they took 3 total games to overtime. They walked away with 1 victory out of those. A bunch of games were decided by a score or less. And a lot of that, and if you followed me on Twitter during any of those games, I was tweeting about it the whole time. A lot of that was coaching that wasn't rational coaching. It wasn't coaching to win. So to see that facet get removed and say that, Anthony Lynn's not here anymore, we're going to bring in a defensive-minded coach, which I like that, because our defense has grown so much over the last couple of years, and I feel like a solid coach can put that together, make those pieces fit, make those pieces mesh, and then to bring in Lombardi to help a rookie quarterback that put up the most, passing touchdowns from a rookie quarterback, to bring in someone to help groom him from a young age and on through as the offensive coordinator. Really excited about that. We're just a few years removed from a 12-4 season. So I'm looking forward to maybe getting back into that 10, 11, 12 win era that our team should be capable of doing with the weapons we have on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and I expect them to, do a lot of things that's going to help Justin Herbert too, as if he really needed it. He obviously did great last year, but, I think with Joe Lombardi, like kind of having full reign of the offense, don't know he's going to go full, Sean Payton type style, but he's certainly learned a lot from them. Lee, have you looked into much about the coaching staff, and what do you think about the kind of the direction of the team going forward?
Yeah, like the guys have said, I'm really excited about the coaching staff that Staley's assembled, and Staley himself. Just listening to Staley speak, he's so impressive. Like, he absolutely captivates you. He's not a rah-rah guy, but he completely has everyone's attention. You've seen him when there's little clips of him on the Rams sideline, absolutely captivating top players like Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, and everyone else. So, a couple of free agents we might want to pick up. We might discuss that a little bit later. And also, he's assembled a young, diverse coaching staff that feels like it's on the up. There's guys who's promoted for the first time that have got their first, coordinator jobs, or they've come into another role which is up above when they were beforehand. And I just feel like it's a coaching staff on the up. It's a coaching staff that's going to be well led, but it also has that little bit of experience. Joe Lombardi, as you mentioned, he's been around the block a few times. He's got a lot of good people around him in his career to date, such as Sean Payton. He's got Sean McVay. He's had the ear of those guys. Vic Fangio, for example, another guy. He's going to cherry pick all these coaches that he's had, and I think he's going to kind of have a coaching staff that he's not going to dictate to. He's going to kind of take everyone's ideas and make it the best for the team, rather than, I thought Anthony Lynn was a little bit pig-headed at times. It was kind of like his way or the highway kind of thing. I don't kind of think that Staley will be like that. I think he'll kind of use everyone's, ideas, maybe not all the time, but he's going to definitely listen to everyone and have the ear of everyone for sure.
And Pod, as we were talking about before the show, it seemed like, when you looked at Staley at first, you're like, okay, well, it's easy to have the number 1 defense in the league when you've got Aaron Donald, but he's got a pretty good guy there on the defensive line too with the Chargers and Joey Bosa. So with a healthy Joey Bosa, he could turn this into a really good defense, right?
Yeah. So we got a stud on 3 different levels. We got Joey Bosa, and we got Kenneth Murray, and then we're going to get Derwin James back. And I think Brandon Staley is going to be able to fully utilize this. So he's only been in the NFL for a few years. In 2017 and 2018, he was the outside linebackers coach for the Chicago Bears. So I believe he's had work with Khalil Mack. And then he was also the outside linebackers coach for the Denver Broncos in 2019. So I believe he worked with Von Miller. And then last year, he was a defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams. I want to point this out. So in the past few years, we've watched the Rams because they were amazing, right? And we saw them in so many shootouts. So in 2017, they gave up 30-plus points 4 times. In 2018, they did it seven times. 2019, they did it 5 times. When Brandon Staley joined the Rams as the defensive coordinator, they allowed 30-plus points only 1 time in the regular season.
Was that Josh Allen?
That was against Josh Allen and the Bills.
Yeah, he had like 4 touchdowns. It was so weird. Like it was like week 8, and they had given up 6 passing touchdowns, and 4 of them were to Josh Allen. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah, they also gave up 32 points to the Packers in the playoffs, but that's the playoffs, you know.
Right.
But I mean, that stat stood out so much. How he was able to contain these teams 30 points or less. So if he can do that for the Chargers, oh man, there's so much promise for our team because our offense is we're ready to explode. You know, we just need to contain certain teams, you know, like the Chiefs and stuff like that. And he was an outside linebackers coach, so he has experience with the linebacker unit, with the middle level. You're talking about Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Noah Fant, you know, so he's going to be able to coach up our linebackers like Kenneth Murray and stuff like that and able to train these guys.
I think we're back.
Sorry.
I think I lost you for a second.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know where I cut off. But yeah. So he's going to be able to contain people like Travis Kelce and Darren Waller and stuff like that because he's an outside linebackers coach and stuff. And no offense. So I think that if he can help at the middle level, then it's going to be really good for our team.
So let's just start at the top. You know, obviously, you know, coaching staff in place, things like that. Just, I think everybody loves Justin Herbert, but how good could Justin Herbert be? Well, John, I'm going to toss it over to you just from a fantasy perspective. Like in dynasty rankings, like how high are you willing to go with Justin Herbert and what his ceiling is?
Yeah, I'm bullish on him. Not as bullish as I am on some of the more like rushing quarterbacks, you know, the Konami code kind of guys, but I believe our DLF rankings just came out for Dynasty, and I think he was QB5 in startups. So, I'm pretty bullish on him high for the talent he's shown as an untested rookie and coming in, I think, with a little bit more instruction. If this is the floor, I can't wait to see the ceiling.
Totally with you. I think I have him at 4. Lee, are you high on just, do you think he can be that upper echelon, like guy you want to build, you know, top 5 type quarterback in Dynasty?
I think so. I think QB5 is about right. You know, like John said, the ceiling is huge, absolutely enormous. You know, we're thinking about a quarterback here that's come in, had an amazing season, and he had about 3 seconds notice to do that. You know, with no off season, with no OTAs, in pandemic. You know, I mean, it's all there. There might be a sophomore slump. You know, that's always the danger, isn't it? We always kind of guard against that. But, you know, we've talked about the weapons beforehand. We've talked about the weapons. We've talked about the coaching staff. It's all there for him. It's all there for him to have a really, really good season again and kind of go from strength to strength.
Pod, were there moments where you felt like he was kind of forcing the ball to Eckler or Allen when, you know, you mentioned that Guyton, you know, it seemed like no matter who you threw on the field with him, he was able to do well. It seemed like maybe some of his games where he wasn't quite as good, he was trying to kind of force the ball into his best weapons. Do you think that's just being a rookie and, you know, kind of like, oh yeah, I got Keenan Allen to throw it to, cool? Or do you think that's just like, you know, that was part of Anthony Lynn and his process, and maybe he'll be past that?
It might have been a mixture of both because, I mean, when you have someone like Keenan Allen who's so good and like just a target monster, I mean, he probably felt really comfortable. And then he also lost Eckler. I think Eckler had got hurt week 4 or 5. So then, I mean, there wasn't too many options. And Mike Williams, I think, had missed a couple games as well. But I think Keenan Allen had 10 games with double-digit targets. So, yeah, he probably did force it into him a little bit. But then you got to look at, like, Jalen Guyton was a sophomore. Tyron Johnson, I think, was a sophomore. We didn't have that many weapons. So, yeah, I think that's what I also want to talk about later. Like, if we can get this guy more weapons, I mean, a lot of people want to focus on protecting him and getting him a great offensive line. But I think that we need to surround this guy with studs because – so NFL team stats, according to NFL team stats, the Chargers, they were tied for third in completions. They had the 6th most passing yards, and they only threw 10 interceptions. So it's like, yeah, that's pretty good, especially for a rookie who played 15 games as a starter. So I think that, I mean, if he can do better than that, that's just going to be amazing, you know. And I can't wait. But we have to surround that guy with weapons, or because Hunter Henry's gone, and I think Guyton has a lot of promise. But we need studs like Keenan Allen, you know.
Well, the good thing is, and here we are on kind of the eve of free agency, and John, there's definitely going to be some guys available that you could, add in, whether it's the offensive line or whether, whatever you think, might need to be. But 30 million under the cap is a pretty good situation to be in. Melvin Ingram is an undrafted free agent. It doesn't sound like Hunter Henry is going to be back with the team, but maybe, you could talk about that. Who among their undrafted free agents do you think they might be bringing back in, or who have you heard that they could be targeting in free agency?
So the rumor mill has been kind of quiet coming out of LA, and maybe it's because I live half a country away, but the loss of Hunter Henry is going to affect, and to kind of piggyback off what we were just talking about, and Herbert trying to maybe force the ball into Keenan Allen. That middle of the field is kind of the safety blanket for your rookie quarterback and stuff like that. So losing a big target like Hunter Henry across the middle is definitely going to be a factor. You've got Mike Williams on the outside. One of the free agents I'm kind of hoping, and it's because it would be bringing two of my loves together, is like if they could grab like a Will Fuller. If you had Will Fuller on one side and you've got Mike Williams on the other, and then you've got Keenan Allen across the middle of the field, that just sounds like a match made in heaven to me. I don't know that they're going to want to spend the kind of equity that I think Fuller is going to command. But there are some tight ends on the market we could probably walk away with if they don't fully believe in Parham as that next man up option. So I'm kind of hoping they address a receiver and bring in another receiver that can play the perimeter with a high level of success to kind of pair with that offense and maybe take some of the pressure off trying to focus on the middle of the field the way he did last season.
Yeah, maybe opening things up for Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler out of the backfield, something like that. What about this? And this kind of go into the free agency as well, but like Donald Parham now is there at the top of the depth chart. Is that somebody we should be excited about, Lee, or is that somebody that you expect them to find some competition for?
He's a prospect to be excited about. It's an old saying, isn't it? You can't teach height. You don't find these guys at 6'7". He can move a little bit as well. He seems like he's got pretty decent hands. He should be a red zone weapon. He should be a weapon on third down in situations. To me, he's not a tight end one. He's not got that experience. He's got 10 catches so far in his career. He's a diamond in the rough. We need to polish him up. He's not going to get polished under that pressure of being a tight end one. And, Hunter Henry caught 50, 60, 70 passes last year. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I don't think he's ready for that yet. So I hope they bring in a tight end one and leave him kind of in this support role that he should be so good at. Steven Anderson's there as well to take some of that load as a tight end 3 as well. Just going back to the kind of who they might bring in, I'd love to see them trade a day 3 pick for Zach Ertz. Philadelphia Eagles need to get him off the roster because they need his cap number. They need the cap number overall to go down and his cap number off the contract. I think a day 3 pick could do it, maybe a 5th, something like that. And, just bring him in. He could easily be a massive, massive part of this offense to replace Hunter Henry. I hope that Henry comes back because I think he's a massive part of the offense. I think him and Justin have got a great on-field relationship. But it does look unlikely, doesn't it? I think that there's lots of teams out there, the Patriots being one of them. Bill Belichick absolutely loves Hunter Henry, and they've got masses of cash in free agency to spend. So I feel like they'll overpay and get him. Hopefully they'll go out and get Zach Ertz. And we've got 9 picks, so we've got plenty of capital to play for in the draft as well.
I really like the Zach Ertz call. That's really interesting to me because he would look really good in a Chargers uniform, I think.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, Pod, what do you think? Are there certain free agents guys that I have a couple of names that I want to toss out to you guys that I'm making my little narrative street connections for, but I want to hear what kind of free agents you think they might want to be willing to bring in.
So this is fairly new. We're not used to the Chargers blowing money. You know what I'm saying? That's like we lost a lot of people like LP, Vincent Jackson, and the list goes on. Even Melvin Gordon. We didn't want to pay Melvin Gordon. So this is kind of new for us, But I believe these numbers are accurate. Cap space is at $23,801,246. Active cap spending is $164 million, and dead money is only $58,000. That's not a lot of money. But I would love to see them bring in another wide receiver. Just like how John said, he's a fan of Will Fuller, but I would love to see I don't know if they can afford it or not, but maybe like a Kenny Golladay or Allen Robinson, or maybe Corey Davis might go for low, because these guys are they're really good and they're good playmakers. And we saw Keenan Allen go down in the last couple games, and we can't afford to have something like that happen. I think Hunter Henry is gone. There's a lot of talk about like people wanting to see the Chargers draft Kyle Pitts, but people are saying Kyle Pitts is like a top 7 or 8 pick. How are we going to get him, John? Like, how the heck are we going to get him at number 13? We would have to trade up. So, I mean, if we could somehow get Kyle Pitts, I would absolutely love it. This guy looks like Megatron out there. It's pretty insane, you know. And if they can't do that, I would like to see them possibly get Ertz or maybe a Jonnu Smith, because Jonnu Smith is amazing, man. That guy, I mean, he once he gets the ball in his hands, he could run. You know, he has a lot of yak ability. And then if we could possibly get one of those guys, and if we can't get Kyle Pitts, I like this guy, like maybe a Pat Freiermuth, draft him, or where is he? Penn State? I can't believe I can't.
Penn State.
That's right.
And then there's a Brevin Jordan. Like, if we can get these guys a little bit later in the rounds and stuff. But I would like to see them if they to sign another stud wide receiver to help and complement Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and stuff. And then possibly, like, there's so much depth in the draft this season. So we could also like draft like a Tylan Wallace or Rondell Moore possibly, or even like super late, like where's that guy? He's from Arkansas State, Jonathan Adams, who's going really late. It's just I just want to fill in as much weapons as possible in order to just surround Herbert and make him feel more comfortable. But it's all up in the air. And there's a lot of talk about them trying to get an offensive lineman, but then I don't know. Brandon Sheriff just got tagged, and it's just like there's a lot of things that's going on to where I'm not too sure exactly who's available and stuff.
Yeah, I love the Kenny Galladay call, and he just missed him, but Lombardi was there in Detroit, and it just really seemed like that would be a really cool fit to have Lombardi, you know, with a weapon like Kenny Galladay and have Keenan Allen in the middle. Man, that'd be a lot of fun. And I love the Zach Ertz call, but you mentioned a couple of names in the draft, so I want to toss this one back over to John here, because you were really shaking your head. Kyle Pitts would be a lot of fun with the Chargers, right?
Oh, absolutely. And kind of a shameless plug. I just published an article last week on dynastyleaguefootball.com about Kyle Pitts. And one of the things that I mentioned in there was a couple of teams that might be good fits. And let's face it, a talent like Kyle Pitts can fit in just about any scheme on any team. So anybody that can grab him is going to, be blessed by his presence. But I mentioned the Chargers as being a team that would benefit greatly because the scheme does benefit, kind of that middle of the field. And he's just such an exciting prospect. Yeah, I would love to see it. I know the pick's a little late. There are people projecting him as high as, like 8th overall. So the dominoes would have to fall in the right order for us to acquire him. But man, I would be buying the jersey that day if we land Pitts.
If it's not him, I mean, there's some pretty good receivers that could fit the bill too, as well, right?
Sure.
Like, do you have
Absolutely.
a favorite? Do you have a favorite? I mean, I guess in reality, is the team going to draft an offensive lineman, or is that just something that they're going to do in free agency? And if it's not an offensive lineman, where do you think they go with that first pick?
It does look like right now, like all the mocks I'm seeing and everything I'm seeing, Mel Kiper's big board and stuff like that, everything kind of points towards the biggest need or the biggest expenditure they want with draft capital is the offensive line. And, I can kind of see it, but, the fantasy side of how my brain works, because I think in terms of fantasy value, and the fantasy side of me wants that skill position player. We have our quarterback. We've got a running back. Let's bring in another receiver to kind of assist, or let's get this Megatron like tight end and book his butt for a long time, But it does appear like the capital is going to be spent towards offensive line.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I feel like every pick that's not on a skill position player is like a wasted pick. Like, why are you picking him? And really, it's not. I know that it's part of it, but it'd be a lot more fun if we could just pair up Justin Herbert with Devonta Smith or something. Like just get somebody like that. That would be great. Lee, what about you? Like, how much have you looked into the draft? Like, do you think that they might take a skill position guy there, or even if it's not there, like maybe later in the draft, have you kind of got your eyes on?
Well, yeah,
guys that you'd like to see him bring in.
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously looking a lot into college football, just put together this draft guide for full 10 yards. Yeah, I mean, I kind of torn a little bit. I mean, kind of sensible head on. thinking the Chargers have never had a good offensive line. They probably need to get a good offensive line. The free agents pickups that they got last year didn't really work out. I know Trey Turner was a trade, but Brian Bulaga was injured a heck of a lot. They just lost a couple of pieces off defensive line. They probably do need to go offensive line, but hell, let's have some fun. I'm not going to say Kyle Pitts. That would be super, super fun. Just team up. We were in a division with Darren Waller. We're in a division with Travis Kelce. They seem to work out pretty well. So drafting Kyle Pitts would be hella fun to do that. We've got a quarterback now that can challenge Patrick Mahomes, I feel. Do we need a tight end that can challenge these two guys? We've already got better receivers than all the other teams in our division anyway. Maybe a bit of rose-tinted spectacles on there, but I'm staying with it. But hell, let's have some fun. Let's go and get Jalen Waddle from Alabama. Let's have some speed. Let's get our Tyreek Hill. I think he could fall to 13 because he's had that injury last season. He came back. He looks like he's okay. He was available for the college football playoffs, but he didn't play. So, yeah, why not? Speed kills, right? So let's go and get Jalen Waddle at 13.
So, Pod, I wanted to save you for last on this because I know you've got, some interesting theories. You would actually like to see them draft a running back despite having Eckler there. What? Talk us through your process there.
Just real quickly, I would like just to talk about just the free agency because also we also need to address the cornerback situation. We lost Desmond King. Harris is turning 32. Hayward's turning 32 this year, and Michael Davis is a free agent. So that's something that we also need to address. But the draft, it's looking like that we're going to get an offensive lineman. I keep hearing about Rashawn Slater from Northwestern and Christian Darrisaw from Virginia Tech, and they're going in the rounds 10 to 20. So I'm looking at a lot of mock drafts, and a lot of people are high on Christian Darrisaw from Virginia Tech. According to PFF, he had a 95.6 overall grade in 2020, which was the second highest they've ever seen from a Power 5 tackle. He allowed 0 sacks, 0 hits, and 6 hurries out of 293 pass blocking snaps, and he only allowed 7 sacks and 29 pressures in both 2018 and 2019 combined. So if we are going to go offensive lineman, we have to bank on it, and it's going to be either Slater or Darrisaw. But I would love to see them. Like I said, just like you guys, I want more weapons. You know what I'm saying? But and I would love to get a dope wide receiver. But there's also we do need help at the running back situation. I think Austin Eckler has gotten hurt twice in his career so far, and he was out for 6 or 7 games last season. And when Josh Kelly has stepped up, it wasn't the greatest thing ever. He averaged 3.2 yards per carry. Every single time you watched him, the second he got touched, he would fall down. He couldn't break tackles. Josh Kelly only broke a total of 7 tackles, and he would only break 1 tackle for every 15.9 attempts. So it's not really good at all. And I think that if we have another really, really good running back to who can pass catch and do stuff like that, I would love to get Travis Etienne or Najee Harris because those guys seem like just studs, who can last 5 years, and then possibly draft a wide receiver later in the draft, like a Rondale Moore or someone like a Tellen Wallace. But I just really think that we need to get another running back because I have a stat right here. I think we were we were 30th in yards per carry last year in NFL team stats, but then we were 9th or 10th in most rushing attempts. So how is that even possible? How are we going to have top 10 in rushing attempts, but be 30th in yards per carry? That's something that I think that really needs to be addressed as well. And if we don't do it early in the draft, there's also players like Poopa Williams or maybe a couple other guys that we can find and stuff later in the draft, like Javonte Williams. I don't know how far he's going to go, but that's something I would like to address as well. Volume.
You're on mute.
Gosh. Oh, man. I haven't done that with any of these shows. Matt does it all the time. Gosh, that was my turn. No, yeah. So Anthony Lynn loves to establish the run. That's probably why he, is out of that job. And, it did seem like that was an area that struggled. Josh Kelly, though, Lee, Josh Kelly, do you have a lot of hope for him? Also Justin Jackson. It's a pretty full, even after Eckler, it's a pretty full running back room.
Yeah, I quite like the Chargers running back room, to be honest with you. I think it's full of potential. You got 3 pretty young guys. The problem is, as Pod said, it's health, isn't it? Justin Jackson cannot stay healthy. I think he's a super talented running back. He's a different style of running back to the other two that we've got as well. I think he's really, really dangerous, but he just cannot stay on the football field. Hence why we were going out and signing Kalen Ballage, of all people, last year. And to be fair to him, he's actually quite okay in a few games. Fair play to him. I don't think he'll be back though. On Kelly, I think Kelly had a pretty decent start, but he got a couple. One in particular, really unfortunate fumble against Carolina, where Shaq Thompson didn't really even mean to. I think he kind of need it out of his hand or something like that. He didn't even intentionally go for the fumble, and I feel like that knocked his confidence a little bit because he'd had a fumble either the week before or the week after. I can't remember which way around it was, but he had 2 games consecutively with a fumble, and I think Anthony Lynn first of all lost trust in him. Hence why he kind of went for more experienced head in Ballage. And I think he maybe lost a bit of focus himself and maybe a bit of confidence in himself. I think he was a bit banged up as well. But, I'm not ready to throw the towel in on a running back when he's just had 1 season. I think there's 3 good running backs in there. If they can all stay on the field, I think they're a diverse group, and I think they'll get a lot of production, especially in this new offense. Because there's a couple of other pieces that should be mixed in there as well. Joe Reed, who we've not seen any potential of, and I'd like to see Justin Herbert used on a few more runs. I know we don't want to put our quarterback, our potential superstar quarterback, in harm's way too often, but as we said before, the guy can move and he's a big guy, so use him in that way. We've seen it with Josh Allen, Cam Newton, things like that. People like that, they're similar stature. So I'd like to see a more diverse running game in the new offense. You're a Saints fan, you've seen how diverse your running game can be, how dangerous that can be with a player like Alvin Kamara, and he's pretty similar to Austin Eckler. I know the Saints never had that dual threat quarterback, but it's the ingredients are all there. I think we say it quite a lot about the Chargers. It's just about putting them in the pot and coming up with a nice meal.
John, just on the running back position, real quick. I mean, and you mentioned it there, Lee. Like, having seen some of what the Saints do, obviously it's not going to be 1-for-1, but how they use Latavius Murray, maybe how they try to use Kelly. Murray's actually also a free agent. I don't know. I mean, maybe there is a line that we can connect there. But if they had Kelly kind of trying to run between the tackles, and obviously Eckler can too, but maybe trying to use him like Kamara. John, I mean, do you feel like the room is pretty good there? You'd rather see them use their resources elsewhere, or do you agree with Pod that maybe that's an area where they can show some improvement?
And they can definitely show some improvement there. I don't know that I would be really excited about them spending any draft capital. If they want to address the position maybe a little bit in free agency and pay a smaller dollar amount versus draft capital, I'd be supportive of it. I want to see other weapons through the draft with that kind of capital, but I like the running back room. Eckler does have a similar skill set to like the Kamara, and I'm not saying he's the same player. He doesn't have the same burst. He doesn't have the same balance, but he's got chops, and he really does. I mean, I know health has been a concern, but the guy really focuses on mind and body, and I think the attitude is there. The health regimen is there. Like, he wants to be healthy. He wants to be on the field. And if you ever read his story about how he came from the practice squad and worked his way up, it's incredible. I like him a lot. I think Justin Jackson is I think he's a very good running back. Just like Lee mentioned, he just cannot seem to stay healthy, and I think he would be good as kind of that dual threat running back that can catch or go between the tackles. And I'm not ready to write off Kelly either. He did struggle. I was excited for him. I saw some promise. And then I do believe, like Lee said, I think it was a confidence smasher, and I think that affected the rookie a little harder than it might have seemed. But I like the running back room. I think it's a competent running back room. I think it's deep because you can attack it at 2 different levels. So I do like the running back room. I just think we need to stay healthy.
Well, and even there were comments from Anthony Lynn that I wonder if, like, you mentioned the confidence. Anthony Lynn was kind of out talking about how Kelly was scared or stuff like that. And I'm like, why do you have to tell people that? This is a rookie that didn't get an offseason, didn't get a preseason. Like, I don't know. I just didn't like that. Some of those comments that were out there. But I want to one last question that I want to toss around the room. I'd be remiss if I didn't, bring this up and kind of get your thoughts on it. But Lee, I'll start with you, and we'll toss it back around. Phillip Rivers is retiring. Not coming back to the NFL, and I think that's obviously you spent a lot of time there with the Chargers. So just kind of your thoughts on the Phillip Rivers era there, and like what he meant to the city, and kind of what do you think of his career? Is he a Hall of Famer?
I think you'll be hard pushed to find a Chargers fan that doesn't think he is, to be honest with you. I mean, to me, he is the Chargers. He's been the quarterback, apart from the past year, he's the Chargers quarterback. He's the only Chargers quarterback I've known. I came just at the end of the Drew Brees era, so he was on the roster but wasn't actually playing. And then, like I said, the only Chargers quarterback that I've known, he is a legend to me. Like I said before, I was lucky enough to meet a few of the team, actually, including LT, and Phillip Rivers was one of them when they came over to London to play the Titans a couple of years ago. And yeah, he's a person I've got immense respect for. I hope that he retires as a Charger. I know they can do the kind of short contracts at the end of the season to kind of so he retires as a Charger, not a Colt. And I think that would be the right thing to do. And he means a lot to not only the Chargers fans but also the community of San Diego as well. He does a lot for that community. And yeah, he means everything to the Chargers fans, I'd imagine, especially in that area in Southern California.
How about you, John? Phillip Rivers, Hall of Famer. I mean, certainly he needs a statue out there in front of the stadium in Los Angeles, right?
Oh, absolutely. I do believe he's a Hall of Famer. I'm bummed that he didn't get a ring, to go with the work he put in and, some of the records that he holds on the all-time QB list for the team. I'll always have a special place in my heart for Phillip Rivers. In fact, a little personal, I've got two Rivers jerseys. I've got the navy and the powder, and that I'm not going to retire those. So yeah, he's got a special place in my heart. I think he's a hell of a leader. I think his leadership on the field, his leadership in the community. I think you have to be a leader if you've got 37 kids or however many he's up to at this point. He's been off for a while, so you never know. But yeah, I do. I think he's got all the things we look for in a Hall of Fame quarterback, minus the ring.
Pod, Phillip Rivers, and don't forget that Matt Donnelly does have more kids than Phillip Rivers. That is a true story. He's got 14, which I think is actually more than Phillip Rivers. Pod, what do you think? Phillip Rivers, Hall of Fame. Just kind of what did he mean to that team in that city there?
He is definitely a Hall of Famer. I'm going to be honest, though. I'm well known for not being a Phillip Rivers fan. I'm very well known for despising him. So I'm not going to go there, though. This guy has played every single game ever since 2006. That means he's been a starter for 15 seasons, 16 games every single time. He's thrown for over 4,000 yards in 12 seasons. I mean, that's Iron Man status. Not a lot of people can do that. And yeah, he definitely deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame. I'm just going to leave it there.
Well,
we're fighting after the show, Pod.
I can't thank you guys enough. I think that's a really good preview of what this team could do over the offseason. Really good insight there. Lee, one last time. I know it's got to be like just super late. Got to be ready for bed. One last time. Tell everybody where they can find you. How can we support what you're doing this offseason?
Yeah, like I say, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's just coming up to just about 2:00 in the morning here in the UK. So yeah, late one, but it's been a pleasure to come on with you guys. And like I said before, talk some Chargers football. So yeah, going over to Twitter, you'll find me at Wakefield90. That's my Twitter handle. And I'm also behind Full 10 Yards as well. That's the site that I work for over here in the UK, mainly concentrating on college football. So in terms of supporting me, come over to the website, come and read my work. I'm working on kind of fixing your franchise kind of series at the moment. I'm working all the way through those divisions all the way through till the draft in the it's now about 7 weeks away. In terms of sport as well, obviously, like I said before, we've just brought out our very first draft guide. So come over, spend a few dollars on it. You get yourself a digital copy. Our mission at Full 10 Yards is to actually put money back into the British game of American football. So our kind of local, I don't know what you call it, but it's kind of our like local leagues and things like that at the grassroots level. So yeah, we're kind of putting a portion of the proceeds from that back into the game, putting people on referee courses, putting people on coaching courses. So even if you don't want to read our takes, you put him into the game over here in the UK. Like I say, it's only a few dollars. So it'd be great to have your support.
I love that. That's I love that the fantasy community gives back, in some way, and that's a great way to give back right there. John, how about you? How can we support what you're doing, the work that you're doing over there? Awesome work. How can we support it?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at John_Hesterman, and I write for DynastyLeagueFootball.com. So our Dynasty Draft Guide is coming out very, very soon. I was one of the key writers on that. Very ambitious project. When you take on a project that size, you want to put your best foot forward. So it was a lot of content, a lot of rereading, a lot of hair pulling, but I'm really proud of it. and I can't wait for that to drop. So when that comes out, that will be available for purchase, even if you're not a current subscriber to DLF. So check that out when it drops. I'm sure I'll be blasting it all over Twitter, so follow me.
Very cool. And DLF, one of the pillars of our industry here. Certainly love their work, and hope everybody gets a chance to check that out. Pod, dynastyvipers.com, and arguing with John on Twitter, right?
Yeah. It's Lamont87 on Twitter, LAN0NT87. I mean, I'm gonna try to find a way. I don't really have a bunch of stuff going on and stuff like that. I'm gonna try to create a Twitch channel for and talk about a lot about sports and stuff. And then maybe, do some Twitter spaces and everything. I mean, if you could just follow me on Twitter, I'm a little bit wild, but I mean, I'll try to tone it down, because I would like to be friends with everybody, and I don't want them to look at me going crazy and stuff. But I drop a lot of interesting stuff. I follow fantasy, basketball, baseball, hockey, everything and stuff. So I eventually I'll be able to provide a lot of content soon. I'm going to try to dish out like an article a week and stuff. I've been really slacking on that, but Dynasty Vipers, man, thank you guys for having me as a team, as a part of a team member, So I'm rocking with you guys. I'm going to do whatever I can to, support you guys and contribute.
Well, you clearly do a great job looking up the stats and doing your research and doing your homework. And that's awesome, man. I really appreciate having you part of the team. Appreciate all you guys for being on the show. Make sure you guys check me out at Calvin and Hobby. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We do really cool things, like, for instance, a guy John knows well. We had Ryan McDonald on not that long ago, about 3 weeks ago. We had him just talking about his history, how he started, and just all the way back to the using box scores to come up with who won the fantasy week that week, things like that. So going way back. Yeah. That's been a lot of fun. So so for these guys, the Dynasty Vipers, for Matt, we appreciate you guys checking it out. And the season finale of the Team Spotlight Series is next. We got a new group. We'll be talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Good place to end the series. And so got some cool guys coming on there. So appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys